Hello and warm welcome to today's session. My name is Manas, and on behalf of the moderator, panelist, and organizing committee, I once again welcome you to today's session. Few important points before I hand over the e-stage to our moderator. I request you to keep your mic mute and video off mode. Use chat box or press raise hand button to ask question from panelists. This session is for 90 minutes. A recorded version of this session will be sent to all the participants. Now, I welcome Mr. Nand Kishore Khandelwal, moderator of today's session. A PhD holder in microbiology, carries 25 years of rich experience in pharma industry and nowadays running a successful pharma consulting firm. Mr. Khandelwal, please open the session.
Thank you, Manas, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon and warm welcome to all. To discuss the topic, survival, Indian pharma ecosystem and a better new world, we have privilege to have an esteemed panelist from various backgrounds such as operations, quality, human resources, regulatory bodies, and government institutions. Strong. Let me welcome the panelist, Mr. Shyam Kante, President Shyam Kante and Associates. Shyam is having 45 years of experience in pharma industry, specifically in the area of setting up projects for world-class pharmaceutical formulations, APIs, manufacturing scale-up technology, transfer, and operation management. He also worked in key positions at companies like GSK, Lupin, Dabur in India and abroad. Welcome, Shyam. Our next panelist, Mr. Manish Bhatkar, founder and CEO Red Lotus Pharmatech Private Limited. Manish is having over 30 years of experience in pharma industry. He had worked in key positions at various companies like Dr. Reddy's, Zydus Cadila, GSK, Lupin in India and abroad. Welcome, Manish. Our next panelist, Ms. Taru Jokinen, Global Head Pharma Segment Lindstrom based at Helsinki, Finland. Taru is Masters in Economics and working with Lindstrom for over 25 years, managing various portfolios, product concept, and currently also hold position of Director Service Management. Welcome, Taru. With that, I move to our next panelist, Mr. Bhavesh Upadhyay, Founder and Managing Director, Enterprising India. Bhavesh is on the board of director in 11 plus companies. He is HR expert, writer. He also worked as an Executive Vice President HR at Intas. Welcome, Bhavesh. Our next panelist, Ms. Sakshi Goyal, Sector Lead, Pharmaceutical and Biotechnology, Invest India. Sakshi had worked in Ernst & Young, Goldman Sachs, ICICI, and now with Invest India as Senior Investment Specialist. Welcome, Sakshi. Thank you all for joining us for today's discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the variables of equation of Indian pharma industry. The current crisis is a blessing in disguise and valuable opportunity to again become a preferred supplier of pharma products for the world. Indian pharmaceutical companies have emerged as safer bet for investors in the ongoing market turmoil. But the pandemic has raised various new issues for the pharma sector. At least 20% of to the world in volume terms is of antibiotics in the form of formulations, tablets, and capsules. India still imports 90% of active pharmaceutical ingredient and 2/3 of it from China. For years, Indian drug makers had turned to China for supply of raw materials, including active pharmaceutical ingredients like paracetamol and aspirin. Around 60% of raw materials in Indian pharma industry imported mainly from China. For certain APIs, China accounts up to 90% of total import. In view of this business scenario, how pharma industry will create an ecosystem to tap available opportunities? With these initial thought, let me invite Taru Jokinen. Taru, what is Lindstrom purpose in building global pharma community?
Thanks, Mr. Khandelwal. Pharma is one of our selected strategic focus segments, and it means that we want to become a desired pharma partner. And therefore, we are working in very close collaboration with pharma regulatory experts, companies, industry leaders, consultants, and academy from across the globe. And to strengthen the cooperation between different parties and to share the valuable pharma insight, we have established the pharma community. And the community enables us to understand better the future business needs, the megatrends affecting the industry, and for sure also the changing regulatory requirements. And in a way, the input we get from the community, it helps us to co-create viable solutions at the best textile service to bring better compliance to the industry. And for sure also help pharma companies to grow in a sustainable way. And to support the community interaction, we have also a concept called Lindström Lounge, which includes innovation workshops, a platform for sharing information valuable for the community. It also includes events and webinars like this, where we can share the valuable pharma insight with the members of the community.
Thank you, Charu, for insightful comments. As far as growth opportunities are concerned, the Union government cleared a slew of measures to promote manufacturing of APIs and key starting materials within the country. This includes a 3,000 crore project to set up 3 drug parks in coordination with 3 states, as well as 20% financial incentive for the next 6 years for manufacturers to make 53 critical bulk drugs, which are in turn used to make medicines. The scheme is expected to reduce manufacturing cost of bulk drugs in the country and dependency on other countries for the bulk drug. Sakshi, government is setting up bulk drug parks as well as other stimulus measures to boost local manufacturing, which includes activating plant, which has earlier closed due to stiff competition from China. Can you explain what kind of government initiative planned which will help pharma industry?
Thank you, Mr. Khandelwal. So, as you rightly mentioned, the Indian pharma industry is one of the largest pharmaceutical industries in the world. Currently, if I go by volume, we are the 3rd largest. And if I go by value, we are almost like the 14th largest pharmaceutical industry in the world. So, just going by the numbers, almost 3.5% of the drugs and medicines in the world are contributed by the Indian pharmaceutical industry. Even right now, it's almost a $41 billion industry by the market size, which is projected to reach almost 130 billion in the next 10 years. So, even in terms of trade surplus, currently we generate almost $11 billion of trade surplus via exporting, and of course, a part of it is by the imports as well. So, we know all of these factors are, they're there, the pharmaceutical industry has been growing, but still there were some lags which were identified by the government in close coordination working with the industry as well, which was majorly in terms of the imports of the raw materials, the APIs and the KSMs, for which the India for a long period of time had been dependent on China. So the government, as you were mentioning, has clearly taken a very welcoming move in terms of launching 2 key schemes for the pharmaceutical industry in March 2020, which of course includes a 3,000 crore scheme to set up 3 bulk drug parks across India, the scheme over the next 5 years, and along with the production-linked incentive scheme for the manufacturers of these key 53 APIs, which will evolve into 41 key products. The scheme is also for around 6,940 crores valid over the next 8 years. So, this scheme has been in our conversations also, it has been a welcome move by both the domestic industry as well as the foreign industry as well. It will make India self-reliant in the coming years, and we will not have to be dependent on the other countries for the basic raw materials which we require. It will also improve the quality of the products which the country is manufacturing and make it a more reliable supplier in the global industry. So, This scheme, of course, has been there. The implementation has already started. The guidelines have been notified. The time period has now started for the industry to come and apply for these schemes. So this is just one of the schemes. I would also like to touch base on some of the other schemes which have been there for some time. So, for example, one of them being a very lenient FDI policy. The Indian government allows 100% automatic approval for any greenfield investment in the pharmaceutical industry which a foreign investor would like to make. And not only just that, even a 74% automatic approval is allowed in a brownfield investment as well. So because of this, the Indian pharmaceutical industry has seen a major chunk of FDI come into India in the last 20 years. If I talk about the numbers, it is almost $16.5 billion, which this industry has seen come in for terms of foreign investment. So that also makes it one of the top 8 sectors which receives the foreign investment into India. Within the last 1 year, the number has been almost close to $500 million. So, see, these are just the policies which keep on adding to growth of this sector. If I move on to the other...
You are right, Sakshi, because the government has eased out various, policies to facilitate pharmaceutical industry. Manish, if we talk about ecosystem, how can pharma industry create an integrated ecosystem?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Khandelwal. So I hope I am audible as well as visible. So
yes, please.
Yeah. So the rising development and prescription drug costs in the West had led to a rise of stronger generic drug manufacturing industry, and that was when that Indian pharma industry also started, experiencing a growth roughly about 3 decades ago. So while the pharmaceutical industry had seen phenomenal growth, it still remains a sort of a generic drug industry. And if we see the history, past 3 decades, Indian pharma has not been able to deliver a single innovative product, which is obviously understandable because it requires, kind of huge investments, very long gestation periods, and a very high degree of uncertainty. However, Indian pharma should wake up now and move from the supply chains to the ecosystems. I think, in my opinion, it can be built by the deeper collaboration among various stakeholders. Like, if I have to count, I would say industry, which can play the role of mentor, investor, influencer, integrator with other members of the ecosystem. Government, as Sakshi mentioned in her answer, like already government is trying to do as much as possible. So they should also help in terms of providing very conducive environment and seamless infrastructure for conducting business. Regulators, yeah.
Manish,
regulators.
I agree with you, and I would like to know Sakshi's views also on this. Sakshi, what are your views? How can pharma industry create an integrated ecosystem?
So see, if we have to move towards creating an integrated ecosystem, I think, as you were saying, definitely a more collaborative approach is required. We need to work together with all the stakeholders. So specifically talking about the government perspective here, I think it has to be a very open, regular and a progressive dialogue, which I think already has started happening over the last 3 to 4 years. I've seen industry has always come forward to talk openly about whether there are any challenges, whether there are any operational issues, or whether there's a change required in the regulatory process per se. This dialogue needs to be kept open. And of course, the government is also trying to take cognizance of the fact that there are certain issues which have been hampering the growth of this industry. They've already started moving towards resolution of those issues in a fast manner. The policy itself, the biodrugs policy itself, was being called out for the last few years. And ultimately, they have come out with it in a very timely manner. So, in terms of the other challenges also, like in terms of, say, exports, the industry has been talking about, say, trade barriers. So that also has been taken very well by the government. They've already started moving towards removing these barriers for the industry. But I would also like to mention that within the industry itself, a lot more collaboration can take place to make it a more integrated ecosystem for all the stakeholders. We have, say, almost I think 10,000 plus manufacturing units in India. So they can, and a lot of it is still an unutilized capacity. So given the current scenario, more collaboration, having more best practices coming out from the industry itself to help their peers come up the curve. And it not only includes the core pharma industry, it can also include the other ancillary units as well, whether it's logistics, packaging. So involvement and collaboration with each of the industry players will lead to a much better and a faster growth for the industry.
Thank you, Sakshi, for your insight comments. As far as optimized infrastructure and supply chain is concerned, these are the backbone of pharma industry. Shyam, how pharma can create a agile supply chain in terms of integrated planning and execution, visibility, procurement, warehousing, inventory management, or logistics? Mr. Shyam?
Need to unmute Mr. Shyam. Mr. Shyam, please unmute.
I think, Mr. Shyam, please unmute you. Yeah, please.
Okay, is it? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, please.
Okay, fine. See, modern supply chains are growing extremely complex, such as changes in the digitalization, augmenting reality, and artificial intelligence. These are the fundamentally transforming the functions of a supply chain. The word agile and the lean, which has come officially from the IT industry or the engineering industry, which relates to the business side, is really way back in 2001. Originally, the term was solely related, but then later on, we have formulated it into a formulation company, that is the pharmaceutical company, and then brought it into to suit our requirement. Incidentally, pharmaceutical industry's requirements are much different that compared to engineering company, but that we were able to change the things. In supply chain, I mean, there are two terms which we normally use, agile and lean. And agile refers to how well the supply chain can be responsive completely. And the lean, it best works on the high volume. Of course, there are two terms a little bit, they don't go as hand in hand as what required in today's parlance. But when we are going to be actually reacting or working towards today's environment, and we are talking about the ecosystem and especially the new world, which is the Atmanirbhar, as given by our Prime Minister, we can't be sticking to our old guns and just talking about what was being done. So naturally, we need to take cognizance of speed, which doesn't require any explanation of this word speed. Ease, that is one word which I would like to see, that when we are talking about the processes and given the regulatory clutches around our neck, this ease to come back to normalcy is something which the ecosystem need to address. Predictability, another thing, we need not be a fortune teller to predict. Nobody in the world has predicted what we are going through Corona. And that's what I would like to ask this question to all the fortune tellers and all the horoscope readers, that not a single soul told that there is going to be something like, and that's what we are going to quickly align ourselves to the predictability, and not enough has been done, but the supply chain is something which is a great importance. And the companies with a very robust, but at the same time, the companies which have really shown some flexibility to see, they are still survived even the Corona situation. And the top and the bottom of it, everybody will agree. Finally, whatever we may say, we may reach a capsule or a tablet or injectable to our deserving customer even by helicopter. But if it doesn't have a quality, it's of no use. So finally, whatever supply chain you should be talking, or supply chain attributes you are talking about, quality is something which cannot be removed from the whole process. So whichever model we stick to in the supply chain, which suits our company philosophy and the other infrastructure around it, quality has to be at the base of it.
Well said, Shyam. As far as pharma industry, of course, needs support from ancillary industry to enhance the productivity. Manish, how can pharma develop support of ancillary industry? What kind of benefits pharma arrive by outsourcing non-core activities? What is your thought on this?
Okay. In the ancillary industry, also in India, it is known as MSME, is a vital part of pharmaceutical supply chain and is considered as a backbone of pharmaceutical manufacturing. So I think I can use two words. One word which was coined by Mahatma Gandhi, which was Swadeshi, and another which has been recently, coined by the Prime Minister, which is local for vocal. So I think these two are the keywords which pharma industry has to actually practice these words and try acting like a mentor and as kind of industry expert to guide ancillaries manufacture efficiently. I will give you here two examples. For example, let's say we are, everybody is saying that we are one of the largest drug product manufacturers in the world, and we are exporting to many countries, including the regulated countries like US and Europe. However, surprisingly, if you see, the vial products are glass vial products particularly, they require a very important piece of a primary packaging material, which is a glass vial. So though there are multiple glass vial manufacturers, but the big glass tube is not manufactured by any of the Indian industry, and it has to be imported from Germany or France for that matter. So this is something where the Indian industry, Indian pharma, should try to work with the local manufacturers, vendors, suppliers, and try to develop, which will ultimately help them reduce the cost. Another example is a two-piece dispenser bottle for ophthalmic solution packaging. If you see, the normal solution which is used for wetting the eyes or wetting the contact lenses costs actually only 10 rupees. But because of this two-piece bottle cost, which is almost equivalent to 250 rupees, almost 3 euros, necessarily increases the price of this particular raw materials or primary packaging materials, you can say. Same case applies with respect to the manufacturing machines as well. So if I have to buy, if some company has to export into the US market and so on, so they would definitely, like to go the sterile manufacturing line, for example, from Europe, which would cost, about 15, any reasonable line or any, crores rupees in India. So perhaps, they have to become more vocal for the local manufacturers, and they should practice, more Swadeshi. That's what is my answer to this question. Coming to the second part, like what kind of benefits pharma arrive by outsourcing is very simple. Like if the pharma companies who can outsource the non-value adding services would be able to unlock their bandwidth and can focus on their core activities, which will be enriching their drug development pipelines and leveraging their expertise in regulatory submission as well as commercialization of the product.
Yes, thank you, Manish. Taru, Lindstrom is a global company. And how has been Lindstrom's journey in partnering with pharma companies in India?
Our cooperation with Indian pharma segment started already in 2009, and then we started serving workwear requirements for unclassified areas. And then after a decade of experience in India pharma segment, we pioneered a clean room service in 2018. Besides India, we are offering clean room services also in China, Russia, and Finland. And I'm happy to say that at the moment we have more than 750 pharma customers, both for classified and unclassified areas.
Wonderful. Shyam, as far as quality and compliance, when we talk to start manufacturing any product, industry always needs support of guidance and of regulators. How much importance we should give for constructive engagement and industry as far as quality and compliance is concerned?
Yeah, these two terms, quality and compliance, I can go back to the way when I did my studies in 1975. For us, understanding of quality was one book which was published by Government of India, which is called Pharmacopoeia of India. And we never knew quality existed beyond that book. That is what we were told and taught. And then slowly as the day progressed, we saw that we had to quit that word control and we went to assurance. So the transition from control to assurance was nothing but very successful implementations or imbibing the principles of the word compliance. And then we want to, so the assurance, so we always used to, industry always used to debate the definition. What was it earlier? So we said that now the assurance of the quality, which is by imbibing of all the good practices in and making it sure, and it's just not waiting for the final analysis. So my answer to this question will be, it is the compliance, especially the regulatory compliance, shouldn't be taken as a sort of impediment in our business, but it should be taken as a way of life. And it is easier, it is extremely easy to follow right from the day one. If it is something like from the childhood, if you imbibe or inculcate some of the hobbies or habits, and that's very easy. It's something like that. Right from the day one, if the industry, even in the infancy stage, accepts the compliance as a sort of not a necessary evil, but as a sort of way of life, the things will be totally different, and there won't be fear in the minds of the industry that the quality control or the quality is something like a great thing to be heard of. Today we see that we are finding it a lot of regulatory issues, especially with respect to the advanced countries, a regulatory inspection, and that happened basically because people tried to accept or acquire the compliance at much later stage of their operation. And that is what is the basic mistake was. But if it is done right from the beginning, there is no reason. And answering this question one more time, is it possible? There is no late or early. You are never too late for anything. You still can do, and the industry can do. And one of the way to really wanting to become, as Manisha said, Atmanirbhar or Swadeshi or whatever this kind of thing, we will have to be absolutely way above everybody in making the world sure that compliance is a way of life over here, and nobody has any iota of doubt with respect to quality of our product.
Yes, you are very much right, Shyam, because we have to also look at the current unprecedented situation from quality risk management point of view. So there is a risk to the quality. This needs to be assessed based on the current situation, unprecedented situation which we are facing. And basically, if we talk about the things which are getting impacted, these are the personnel which are impacted, needs to be assessed, facilities and equipment, production processes, materials, quality assurance, quality control, compliance, supply chain, finished goods. These all needs to be checked. Industries has performed the risk assessment. If we talk about personnel, the risk of infection needs to be assessed. And as a mitigation, the Indian pharma industry has taken various measures like screening of temperature of the incoming staff, social distancing, training of good hygiene practices, including hand hygiene, prompt medical attention for such suspected staff is arranged. Government also issued guideline time to time, and industry is following those guidelines. SOPs are prepared to handle the current COVID-19 unprecedented situation. And if we talk, the risk of contamination is there. So this has to be assessed. Cleaning and sanitization, disinfection process needs to be announced. Risk of instrument and equipment breakdown is there, because if you are running a process, if something goes breakdown, and you have to call any service engineer from outside, and it will take time. And moreover, if people are coming from different states, there is a separate guidelines issued by the different state government. So this needs to be followed. So we perceive risk as far as any breakdown happened during this period. Also, the production processes and materials, if we talk, the risk of non-availability of materials. Sakshi has covered about the source of API from China, and because we are not having available API, we have to stop the processes. So impact on supply of raw materials, key starting materials, packaging materials, especially for imported materials. So it may impact the production processes. Risk of delay in supply materials because of the lockdown. Indian industry are not running up to 100% capacity. So there is a capacity loss, and because of the less or thin manpower available, the companies are not producing the goods as per the capacity. Risk of shortage of medicines because the companies are running only critical operation to ensure uninterrupted supply of essential drugs products to the patients, meeting quality attributes. So this is a risk for shortage of medicine. So this is also there. Risk for delay in analysis because of the release of raw material for production. So it is also posing risk for delay in production. And if you talk about quality assurance, quality control and compliance, if you see due to thin presence of qualified staff, risk for timely closure of quality management documents. This is perceived because the documents are not closed within the time frame which is mentioned in the SOP or decided by the company. Risk of delay in manufacturing of release of the products, that is also perceived. Risk in delay in stability sample analysis. Again, the less manpower, the stability samples are not being analyzed as per the time frame specified. There is also risk for regulatory commitment because the company is giving after the inspection, when we file a compliance report to the authority, so we give the completion for the CAPAs, and that is also getting delayed because of the availability of the manpower and also because of all the operations are not running in the company. Finally, if we talk about supply of finished goods, risk for delay in release of finished goods is there because of less manpower, less availability of the QA reviewer in the company. So this is impacting the pharma industry. Risk for non-availability of transportation for distribution, that is also a consideration because the transportation facilities are not available. Having said this, the technology and innovation, if we talk about operation excellence is concerned, India has thriving biosimilar ecosystem in comparison to other countries. And because of that, India has potential to become a global player in biosimilar. So, Shyam, in view of the above, what are emerging business technologies which will benefit pharma industry in long run?
Well, I think Nandakishore, you have very wisely removed that the novel drug delivery system and the research part of the thing, and you want me to specify on the technology part of it or the technical innovation part of it. There is a huge India can do about it. For example, India is a world leader in information technology or the IT per se. India has a large number of engineers, qualified engineers base. India has a huge infrastructure and the network. Manish has given a very right example of the very expensive equipment being used in the pharmaceutical industry. This is one place where where we can take a leadership. I'm sure we cannot reach one day the quality of Robert Bosch or Groningers of the world, but then we can definitely a good hub for giving the IT or the support for the software. We can give the support for the best services or the maintenance of the equipment. There could be change parts and all the machine parts which are required. They can be manufactured here. So there is no reason why we can't take this portion and then slowly develop. In the morning session, I gave a small example. There is a very wonderful piece of equipment which pharmaceutical industry were using, freeze dryer. Believe me, 15 years back, we used to get shivers by just hearing the word freeze dryer. And we used to say, oh, I'm going to join that company because they have got 2 freeze dryers. That was the standard. And believe me, what is freeze dryer today? What do we talk about? Freeze dryer means excellent solenoid, excellent software, excellent pumps, which can deliver a vacuum of say some few millibars and all this thing, and the compressor. Can all these things are available in India? We can get for some reasons the heart of the machine, but rest of the thing, the software, we are world leader. Pumps, the same German pumps can be used. Solenoid that can be put over here, and we can bring the construct that equipment 1/10 of the cost. Can we not be Atmanirbhar? Can we not be the world leader? Can we not show the whole world that look, this is what we can? And one thing, quality outside the 4 rooms of quality lab. We always felt quality means HPLC, TLC, and weight variation, drying, and all beyond that. Nothing beyond that. There is much beyond that. We can have the best of the system who can write an excellent URS, because that is the one place where we get a lot of mistakes and the regulatory issues are there. We can have an excellent teams or a system who can do the FATs, who can be a good source in validation, and they can help. So we can reduce half the hurdles of any advanced regulatory systems, 483s and this thing, and there where we can be still leader. So there are a lot of avenues available for us to become a leader, for us to take a global leadership position, and this will indirectly, or even sometimes with courage, I can say, can directly reduce the cost of material. Everybody talks about it. How can we compete with China? Yes, we can. There's not that every time I have to take a hammer and bang my nose to become a Chinese. No, there is not a way. You can, a lot of things can be done. For example, as I told you this, if you can make the best of the machine, best of the equipment, best of the support, live support, if this can be given, we can reach even anything in the areas of machinery. Manish has given a lot of examples like glass. We don't have glass here. We don't have ampules which are made in millions and billions. We don't have anybody. The tubings are not made. The 2-piece vials, plastic vials are not made. I give a small example. Give me just only 30 seconds. We have been working on one project, and I saw a Hero factory in Hardwar, and that factory had 5,000 acres of land. I just casually went to ask you, I don't see that big plant of Hero, and why they have 5,000? They said, no, we have taken the land, we require only 800 acres. The rest 4,200 acres is for all the ancillaries which we have built around, and they have sort of a business partnership with this thing. So all the ancillaries which are required has been done in the adjoining area. So the transportation cost virtually zero. They can just throw the part across the things and the things come without zero. Can China compete with this kind of thing? No. So this is what they have done it. So they're going to build supply, surety of supply, because there is a personal bonding. The fellow who is working, he knows, I must produce, I must give the quality, otherwise that line stops, my lifeline stops. So these are the ways we can build in quality, we can build in agility, we can build in this thing and still take a leadership position and innovative ways of working. We have to drop our old ways of working and go into this new thing. Few examples I give, but I think it's for others to also contribute. I have already taken overuse my time. Thank you.
I really appreciate, because has to be Atmanirbhar, and there is absolutely no doubt we have to beat this, the dream of our Prime Minister, and all the companies are working in this direction, especially pharma. Government has also declared various, incentives for the pharma industry. Manish, if you are dealing with several projects in pharma companies, so how pharma fraternity will have collaborations through the rapid exchange of information to bring a significant benefit at the strategic and operational level?
Right. So that's that's very interesting, actually, because data is something which will be a kind of future. So the answer to this question is like, as pharma industry, like as we see that is facing lots of challenges from various areas, and the biggest of them is healthcare market challenges. So which includes kind of competition outside the pharma business, or you say tightening of the prices, then demand for better data on medication efficacy and patient quality of life. And these kind of things are putting kind of pressure healthcare market challenges. On the other hand, regulatory expectations are also increasing. the regulators, particularly US FDA, is running a pilot project where eventually they would like to make sure that they get data from on the quality indicators metrics on a real-time basis. So based on that, they can classify the manufacturers into different categories and accordingly decide, their scrutiny methodologies. Similarly, all these things, all these challenges, regulatory or healthcare, are putting extra challenge on the operational environment. And particularly, what is required that because of so much dynamic situation, the facilities are expected to be flexible. Now, sites' ability to accommodate changes in production demands they have to adopt, very quickly with respect to this changing demands and so on. Then quality needs to be integrated, is expected to be integrated because the regulators are expecting to see the real-time information based on the defined, quality indicators and so on. And then also a lot of innovation is happening. Like as I have discussed, as I have explained in my previous answer also. So the industry has to develop ability to quickly absorb the knowledge and implement all these new practices and so on. So how can this be achieved in such a dynamic condition and situation? So pharma industrial internet seems to be the answer at this point in time. Though it has not been, fully developed at conceptual stage, and certain things have already started, happening in different parts of the world. So what is that? Pharma industrial internet, it will be a of drugs to their dispensing to the patients. So in other words, there will be two different environments. One will be a manufacturing environment where the drug sensor devices, application services, patient care will be done, and other will be a Internet of Things, IoT ecosystem and market for utilizing, analyzing, and monetizing the use of medical products and ultimately the patient care data. And the infrastructure which would be required, and pharma industry should start thinking about it, would be setting up of a manufacturing intelligence system, which will be in other terms can be considered as an automated and real-time system. The packaging execution system, which can involve, kind of softwares that control serialization and automation process, and an integrated supply chain for complete traceability and collaboration. And this all of this will be supported with the help of enterprise backend IT cloud-based services for analytics, as well as the product lifecycle management, compliance reporting. So going forward, I think these are the things which pharma industry have to adopt to the new order of doing business.
Yes, you're right, Manish. Is on technology and innovation front, how government is supporting pharma industry on this front? And second one is, what are the 3 key success factors to be able to garner a bigger share of global market?
So to answer the first question first, Mr. Khandelwal, in terms of the support for technology innovation, so definitely, the new schemes, both for the parks as well as the PLI, they do incorporate this element of technology, research and development into it. Even while we are considering who are the companies which can be finalized for PLI scheme, one of the factors is definitely how much investment is being done into the research and development, the capital expenditure towards new innovative technologies. And even in the park, out of those 1,000 crores each for the parks, a part of it has to be diverted towards creating those centers of excellence, creating those research centers, incubators, which can lead to these new discoveries and R&D sector. And also, the government is very actively, along with the industry players, working towards a new policy. The committee has already been set up. They're working towards this new policy, which will help in new drug discoveries in India, lead to more research and innovation. So we should see that policy also coming out very soon, and that would lead to more innovation in the industry. Answering the operational excellence part, yes, definitely. There are certain steps taken from the government. First and foremost, of course, I would like to offer the Sugam portal, which has been there. So I think even though there might be certain challenges which still exist in that system, but definitely in terms of easing out the operation processes, filing of documents, maintenance of those documents has been eased out by introduction of the Sugam portal. Also, the ministry at the central level, they are trying to formulate the single window system of approval, so both the existing companies, new investors. So as because we know there are a lot of approvals which go into this industry, whether it's for a new investment, whether it's for renewal of basic renewals as well. So all of that will culminate into one single place and ease out the operational part for the industry too. Coming to the second part of your question, the 3 key success factors. In my view, first and foremost, being as we've been talking about, Mr. Bhatkar and Mr. Kante mentioned, adoption of technology and digitization. Definitely, this has to be taken up on the priority by the pharmaceuticals industry, and whether it is an automation of production, or whether it's human resource management, customer engagement. So it has to be across the value chain. This will bring the industry at par with the global peers as well. Second part being the innovation. There is nothing which should hold back the industry to work towards innovating new drugs. As you were mentioning, biologics and biosimilars. This is something which we have the capabilities for. So why not move from the generic medicines and normal vaccine production towards the new and upcoming medicines, which are the need of the hour, not just for our domestic patients, but as well as for the global patients as well. And the last factor, which I feel is also collaboration. So I did mention about collaborating with the industry players, but it also has to be a good part can also be with the academia too. Because there is a lot of resources which are available within our own domestic academia. So why not work with them towards developing these new drugs, developing new technologies, and it will also cater to a key question of which is which keeps coming up in terms of skill development. So the industry can work with our institutions, help in development of those skills, and as well as answer the issue of the brain drain, which has become an issue for the industry at present.
Yeah, thank you, Shakshi. As since we are talking about technology and innovation, operational excellence, Taru, how Lindstrom is gearing up to serve pharma industry demands?
As we all know, the regulatory requirements in parenterals are critical and stringent, and that demands more compliant service. We have technological capabilities and experience from 23 countries, and that helps us to develop and deliver seamless and compliant service. And together with our customers, we are all the time identifying new needs. We are together developing new solutions like goggle service, mock service, sterilization, and ready-to-use clean room products. And in addition to this, we have also made investments and created digital infrastructure to meet GMP and 21 CFR compatible requirements. And on top of that, we have also transparent and 100% reliable platform called eLindström for pharma customers to track the life cycle and status of the garments in circulation. So this platform called eLindström makes it very easy to use our service.
True, Lindstrom services are very useful for pharma industry as far as workwear processing is concerned. Bhavesh, you have experience in handling of workforce, and you have been in pharma industry you have seen the pharma industry very closely. I would like to know With increase in technology disruption in pharma process, 50% of work activities will be automated, which would result in reduction of workforce. How highly populated country like India is prepared for the same?
See, let me tell you that in pharma industry, we are always in a scarcity of skilled manpower. Today also, I've been, let me tell you that I've been working with the pharma industries, leading HR for a number of years. Every time, there is always a scarcity of right people. So in India, we have too many people, but still we have a very less trained manpower who have been trained in pharma sectors. So, for instance, if I talk about the a blue collar job, so there are, if I would talk about the example of Gujarat state, so Gujarat is dominating 50% of pharma industry in the country, and the top 10 pharma, out of top 10 pharma company, Gujarat is contributing 50%. So still, we are facing a huge problem in terms of getting a blue collar or white collar. White collar, if I have to talk about the college and universities, they are not teaching them how to run the HPLC machine, or they are not teaching them how to run the granulation machine. So now this electronic BMR, electronic batch manufacturing record, is mandatory for all WHO and USFDA approved facilities. So now there is a less intervention of human manpower, but still the automation can reduce the human intervention, but we require human resources to ensure that we are getting the right quality of the production and without any error-free manufacturing process. So if I have to look at this situation from a broader perspective, definitely as a pharma industry, we are looking for a huge manpower supply from a various sources, and believe me, at least for 10 years, pharma industry required at least 20%, 30% growth in terms of human resources management. Yes, over to Mr. Kandri.
My next question, related to this is creating a workforce that is skilled in specialized pharma areas to build and strengthen its capabilities, as well as maintain our current market share and grow. How it can be achieved? Hello, Bhavesh?
Hello.
Hello, Bhavesh?
Yeah, hope you're audible to me.
Yeah, can I repeat my question? Have you got my question?
Yeah, no, I listened it properly.
Okay.
So next 5 years is going to be dominated by nutraceuticals and the herbal. India is already dominating in terms of formulations, and as Sakshi said, that we are more dependent on the APIs from China, but slowly and gradually depends on the government policy. A lot of manufacturers coming for API, but next 5 years would be a nutraceuticals and the herbals, or maybe a 10 years. So the need of our for Indian pharma industries to have a high quality of manufacturing facilities, high quality of human resources management, and the support company like Listron, where they provide a high quality of garments, high quality of low cost. In fact, I'm very proud to introduce Listron in my pharma company. And initially, where people were saying that it's a cost, but now everyone is appreciating that the company has made a huge impact in terms of our the quality of working and the quality of manufacturing. So according to me, the challenge will be getting the right people, right technology, and the support from our outsourcing agencies and the vendors.
Yes, Bhavesh. As you, training of the staff is very important. You mentioned about skilled manpower, and to keep them updated with the latest regulatory expectations. What measures taken by the industries and government in developing competency, training, and development?
See, Government of India has initiated the process of making mandatory all Indian pharma companies for skilled manpower, and they have just launched the program, and it is mandatory for all pharma companies. For those who are working with the pharma, especially in the blue collar or white collar, they have to undergo this training program. This training program duration is a 6 months, and people can opt while working with the pharma industries. So this is a good initiative by the Indian government. But again, government is not helping them in terms of providing a support in terms of cost. So each pharma company have to bear the cost of training. Of course, the government has made it mandatory, but according to me, there should be a support from the Indian government, because the cost of training program for 6 months is a very big cost. Secondly, the all pharma colleges in India. I wanted to make a strong recommendation that they have to increase the interface of the pharma manufacturing companies between the colleges, because student needs to learn a real pharma manufacturing process or quality assurance practices or regulatory affairs practices, because what they are teaching in the college, especially in the B farms, according to me, 50% is not applicable to the pharma industries, because they need to learn the ground realities of the pharma sectors in terms of electronic based manufacturing record, in terms of the various process of granulation, compression, every manufacturing process. And pharma has two segments. One is the manufacturing, second is the non-manufacturing segments. So nowadays, because of the stringent US FDA norms, the non-manufacturing practice is also making a significant impact to the lot of Indian pharma companies. So it is important for the education institution and the company to ensure that the people who are working or people who are studying in the colleges, they should get a broad overview of real CGMP manufacturing practices, and they should understand the complete norms of US FDA before they just enter into the company.
Bhavesh, you are right. We require bridging between academy and industry. So this will be helpful for the students, also those who are passing out from the college, and they will be inducted into the industry directly. So this will be very helpful. I really appreciate for your thoughts on this. Bhavesh, if we talk about sustainability, the facility, garments, housekeeping, and cleanliness play very vital role for ensuring clean work environment within the manufacturing premises. How it should be managed?
See, this post-COVID, a lot of company has a pressure to reduce the administrative expenses or reduce the non-manufacturing practices, factory expenses. For instance, as someone said that the manufacturing is only producing around 40 to 30% the production as of now because of the COVID situation. And let me tell you that top 10 pharma company in India is providing 90% of their manufacturing medicines to the export. So a top 10 pharma company, they are producing the medicine, but it's going to export. So India is suffering in terms of high quality medicines. Number one. Number two, since they have a pressure to reduce the operation cost, most of the companies they are trying to renegotiate with the vendors. They are trying to push the vendors for reducing their cost. And I have a fear that if you are not paying the vendors, for example, a best housekeeping practices or best garment practices, then how a best high quality vendor like Lindstrom or any other high quality vendor will support the organization in terms of providing high quality housekeeping equipments or the garments or lockers or any other facilities. So it is important for any organization, especially in pharma companies, to understand that these vendors, especially administrative segments like housekeepings, the garments, or the lockers or any other administrative equipments, they are also playing a very important role to ensure that our drugs are does not get any cross contaminations. So management of Indian pharma companies, they are in a dilemma. So they wanted to reduce the administrative costs. They wanted to reduce their overheads, but at the same time, I requested everyone, in fact, in our forum, that let us not push too much to vendors to reduce their cost, But please, and we need to make sure that whatever resources we have, we need to improve the high quality of products, because any compromise on production issues will damage our company's image, and complaints will increase. So it is important for everyone to respect even our vendors, respect our employees, and respect our stakeholders, and let's create a win-win situation for all.
Now almost 5 months are completed, and we have been learned many new things from current unprecedented situation of COVID-19, and it has changed our lifestyle too. So Manish, coexisting and combating with COVID-19, what should be the role of pharma suppliers, vendor in working towards supporting pharma industry to achieve sustainable growth?
Thank you. Yeah, I am audible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So, so you have talked in length about risks posed raw material. So perhaps, and you have also suggested the methods and means, like how those situations can be handled for the time being. So I will not get into that. But whether this COVID-19 situation remains or it goes away, but certain things are very, very important, which needs to be considered. Like when you have asked me a question, role of pharma suppliers. So in my opinion, and I think anyone who has worked into the pharmaceutical industry would agree that regulators consider suppliers as extension of the original manufacturer's manufacturing facility itself. And they expect that the same level of quality systems, or maybe quality systems which are aligning with the manufacturer, they should be enforced and maintained at the vendor's manufacturing area. Sometimes we have also seen in my past experiences, like some key service providers or manufacturers of some starting materials or packaging materials were also inspected as part of the original manufacturing facility inspection. So that's why, from that point of view, what becomes very important for the vendors or the suppliers to make sure that they develop the quality culture in their manufacturing system or facilities as well, which aligns, which quality system that aligns and matches with the client's quality systems. Not only availability of the materials, but also reliability is required with respect to the quality of the material as well. Reliability and consistency in quality of their deliverables is extremely important. They should also consider that they could be audited as part of the extended inspection, so they should also be ready for audit at any given point in time. Because you would have seen, like FDA has started this kind of inspections. They just appear on the gate anytime and would like to access your facilities and see your operations and processes. So perhaps the same thing can be expected from their key suppliers, key material suppliers, particularly those who are supplying the APIs or the critical excipients or primary packaging materials. Also, they can insist upon having a very clear, unambiguous, and a comprehensive technical agreements with the manufacturers. technical agreements are extremely important part of, I'm sure, Lindstorm would understand if they are even for services, if they are providing, garments for the application in aseptic processing area. So I'm sure you would be asked by, many manufacturers, many pharma companies to have, a kind of very detailed technical agreements written and so on. So I think that's my take on this particular question. That's how, pharma suppliers and vendors can work towards supporting pharma industry to achieve sustainable growth.
True. If we see the import and export, according to the Indian Brand Equity Foundation, IBEF, pharmaceutical exports of India from the financial year 2012 to 2019 have grown from $10 billion to $19 billion. As per recent estimate, India accounts for about 10% of world's pharmaceutical production by volume and 1.5% by value. The industry is the world's largest supplier of generic drugs and controls around 18% of global market. It is also a leading producer of vaccines in the world and caters to about 50% of global vaccine demands. This is due to an already high demand for Indian drug because of cheaper pricing, making these more affordable to both developing and developed nation. UNICEF and UNITED too rely heavily on generic drugs manufactured in India for their AIDS program. So Sakshi, I would like to know your quick comments on how can India reduce dependence on API imports and develop local competencies? How government and pharma fraternity is working on suitable solutions to manage this challenge?
So, the major policy, I think I'm reiterating my point here. The PLI scheme and the PARC scheme is an answer to this challenge which the industry and the country have been facing for quite some time now. Of course, an expedited implementation of the scheme is key to ensure that we do not face this challenge in the coming days. And of course, when the production is started in the country, that quality again has to be maintained so that we remain the reliable supplier of medicines as we have been till now. And also, I think it started when the COVID pandemic situation actually happened. Both the government and the industry at large have been working in coherence and in joint collaboration to answer any of the challenges which have been coming, whether it was in terms of not getting permissions to operate their companies, whether in terms of movement of the human resources. So, government is standing there for the industry. Whatever challenges have been highlighted till now have been answered to them. And even the industry itself, I'd like to take a quick example of providing hydroxychloroquine. So even though it was banned by the export was restricted actually by the government, but still there was so much demand coming from countries globally. A lot of the Indian players, took up it as a challenge. They stepped up their production within days, not even months. It was about time of days. They stepped up the production capacities, and I think more than 100 plus countries were supplied by these medicines, and all was coming from India. So such similar, proactive approach is needed by the industry even in the coming days. There have been certain proposals by some industry players that these key APIs which we are planning to, which we are planning to cater to through these schemes, they can, if given a few months' time, they can wrap up the challenge right away as well. So such approach from the industry and definitely further support from the government will help us tackle this challenge. This is already happening, and this will keep on happening if both the sides keep on working as they have been in the last few months.
Thank you, Sakshi, for your comments. As far as you have worked in various industry and import and export is concerned, how pharma industry can create high value based products as against increased competition from generic drugs? I need your quick comment on this.
All right. So I would suggest on this particular, my opinion is like 2-point approach. where one is leveraging, your internal capabilities, as well as, creating kind of working association, meaningful association with the spare capabilities or capacities which may be available in different corners. For example, academic institutions or the public laboratories, public funded laboratories and so on. So first point, internal capability expansion. So how can you achieve that? As I have already explained in my previous answers, like by some means, like, by, let's say, by digital transformation, or with the help of by outsourcing some non-value added exercises, and digital transformation gives you automation. So perhaps you can free up, the industry can free up, a lot of bandwidth, and they can focus on their core activity, which is kind of development of drug products, enriching their drug development pipelines, and leveraging their expertise in regulatory submission and commercialization of the product. So that is sort of, kind of internal efforts. Whereas on the external side, so as somebody has mentioned in his answer, like, we have so many number of, I don't know the exact numbers of pharmacy colleges in India, but there are plenty, I believe. Maybe I think maybe in hundreds. So they have, good laboratories as well as students available. Some, I think Mr. Upadhyay mentioned, like what is being taught in the pharmaceutical industry, in the pharmacy colleges, only 50% or some number is applicable in the real life. So perhaps if we can create, some kind of association or a micro ecosystem of industry and academia, so perhaps we can utilize their spare capacity and raw talent, where students also get an opportunity to learn what industry wants, and he also gets at least the initial level of developments done at almost negligible price or negligible cost or no cost at all. Similarly, we have many government funded laboratories, CSIR labs, CDRI particularly is a central lab which was, kind of commissioned or came into effect very early in 1952. So these laboratories have, because of their, kind of lack of professionalism or kind of, kind of working attitude and so on, have not been able to deliver kind of very promising products as such until now. So maybe with respect to little bit tweaking, improving their ways of working, making them responsible for certain things and accountable, defining their roles, proper, roles, missions and vision and so on. So perhaps those can be integrated. They have huge untapped potential. And that's how I think industry, by doing certain internal tweaking as well as gaining some traction from external agencies, can help develop some value-based products and innovative products for the very competitive market.
Bhavesh, as we are talking about developing and manufacturing of value-based product, what is the role of manpower working in pharma industry to bring this change?
As Mr. Manish said that only human resources management can make the difference. And everyone knows that business is equal to people management. So if any organization have a high quality of manpower, definitely productivity will go high. So in terms of getting the right people on board, making a right choice about the employee will make a huge impact in the story of organizations. Now, there is a different data. For example, there are high quality people are available, but there are too many companies to choose them. At the same time, there are mediocre people are huge in a quantity. So companies are getting a lower level average people most of the time in terms of the secondary packing or the lower grade of manufacturing processes. So in terms of for any pharma industries, the quality assurance and the regulatory affairs two department and the quality control, they are very, these three departments are very important departments for any pharma companies. The problem is that the available human resources are very limited. You are talking about the automation. It does not make any impact, believe me. Only the challenge we are facing at that there is, and secondly, there is a huge attrition in the people. The people are taking advantage of rotating their career from one company to other companies. The average tenure of any human resources person or technical person is not more than 3 years in India. So this is a very challenging and alarming, because for example, any fresh graduate B Farm, the company takes minimum 8 months to 9 months to even train them to run how to run HPLC machine. So you are training a lot of people and they are leaving their organizations very fast. So now there is a time where industry has to collaborate. They have to ensure that they don't recruit the people within some certain strategy of geographical area. At the same time, we need to invest more on competency and training of people. We need to cover those mediocre people into the average people, and those average people into the good people. So now there is a time for Indian pharma industry to get a high quality people through various training initiatives like a quality behavior training, or ensuring that the people who are working with the organization, they are fully equipped with their knowledge and their skill and their competency. The knowledge available today is not more than 50 to 60%. I'm talking about the fresh candidates. So it is important for college to ensure that they increase their interaction with the industries, and the industries should also ensure that they should recruit the people at the third semester or fourth semester in the college, and they have to identify those candidates before their graduation, and they need to train them according to the company practices, company policies, and the good manufacturing practices.
And we are moving towards the end of the webinar. My last question to you, I need your quick answer within 1 minute on this. Importance of connecting with stakeholders of the industry in newer ways as a customer experience will be the true differentiator in the pharma sectors. What is your thought on this?
So this is actually, it's very interesting. You know, as in my previous answer, I mentioned about the pharma internet. So similarly, to improve, because selling traditional medicines will not guarantee sufficient growth to the industry, or nor even sustain the competitiveness in longer term. So as medicines alone are often not enough for patient to achieve optimal clinical outcomes. So this has created the interest for utilizing new technologies and business processes in development and patient care, leading to pharma Internet of Things, or as it is called as, pharma IoT. So this conceptualizes a digital transformation of drug product and related care processes with smart connected medical devices and IT services. So these could be, cloud mobile apps and so on. So which will be kind of in drug development, clinical trials, as well as in the patient care. Now, the outcome of pharma IoT in development and clinical trials will be using the combination of advanced technologies and services for creating totally new kinds of disease treatment possibilities. The fundamental difference between patient care pharma IoT and other consumer IoTs, like the one which you see normally people use those health bands and so on solutions. So basic difference between them is that pharma solutions would require regulatory compliance. So I mean, and because that is also a new thing for the regulators also. So they are also in a process. FDA is already in a process of creating a separate digital health unit, which would validate the software for clinical purposes. The unit will oversee patient care software using artificial intelligence and advanced analytics with by using the wireless or connected devices, telemedicines and cybersecurity and so on. So wearable technology, another area, some good examples of pharma IoT solutions with respect to wearable technologies are kind of connected sensors, which are weighed by Parkinson's disease and multiple sclerosis.
Anish?
One more minute, because this is very interesting and looks like a sci-fi movie coming straight out of Matrix 2, something like that. So machine learning, artificial intelligence will find their way in patient care as well eventually. Though it doesn't seem, at least in India, it is not very. Sorry. My time is up.
No. Could everyone please keep their mic on mute? Yeah, Mr. Manish, you can continue.
I can continue. So at some point in time, there will be sort of virtual cleaning. A couple of days ago, I was kind of home. This is very simple, on a kind of a video call. Doctor asked me about my symptoms. So I don't know how much he could see from there, but eventually there would be apps, which will read your eyes, which will read, your different organs, and so on. Doctors can remotely see. So perhaps there would not be a doctor in future. Perhaps it would be just an app for that matter. So looks like a science fiction here, right? So no doubt that AI will also change the role and job descriptions of healthcare professionals in their everyday work. At the same time, all this will enable substantially improve the personal medication and care processes, where the patient care data is the new source of innovation and competitiveness for the pharma companies, as the real world would evidence or would see in future. And to make the transformation even more challenging, pharma companies need to take into account the forthcoming, like already Europe has kind of published their draft guidance on EU data protection and privacy legislation, which will give control of their care data to the patients. For example, patients will be allowed to transfer their care and health data across the service providers, leading to emergence of totally new kind of service platforms and business models. So very exciting times, though it looks like a science fiction, but I'm sure this would be a reality very soon.
Thank you. I think you all have provided very elaborated answers to answer of my questions. The current situation enforces us to redefine our strategy and operating model, serious and focused approach is required for the development of specialty drugs to be adopted as a new business model. The pharma industry should be self-reliant for manufacturing of APIs, key starting materials, intermediates, and other raw materials currently being imported. The Government of India has already started working in this direction, as I discussed in the beginning. Open door policy of government will be certainly strengthen the bond, bring more transparency, resolving teething problems, and benefit the pharma industry. Adopting digital technologies and advanced analytics is now become our lifestyle, and it is also need of the hour. The companies who are having strong R&D support, quality conscious, having strong ingrained quality systems, and focused on compliance will be the front runner. More efforts and focused approach is required for operational excellence to achieve better profitability. The organizations have to pay more attention to upskill the quality talent pool through training and development. Building quality culture knowledge sharing is another area where more efforts are required. Technology, innovation, continuous improvement, and business process must keep pace with health authority expectations. System and processes should manage, not to complexity. With this, I must say that Indian pharma industry is capable in terms of knowledge, talent, innovation, skill set, competency to develop and manufacture quality products to support the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, for Atmanirbhar Bharat. With this, we come to the end of today's webinar.
Yeah.
We have
Mr. Khandelwal, can we take a couple of questions? We still have 5 minutes. So
yeah, we have received
any.
Yeah, please. We have received questions, and we will now take these questions one by one.
So, any participants would like to ask question, can unmute and can ask question from panelist. Or else you have already the questions beforehand. So, Mr. Khandelwal, would you like to pick up some questions from the panel, from the participants?
Sure. So the question the participant has forwarded to us is, can pharma industry do the recycle of some chemicals? Mr. Shyam, can you respond to this question?
Recycling, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So recycling, reprocessing and all these things, as far as possible, one should do the cost benefit analysis. Unless it is prohibitively uneconomical to throw the first crop, second crop, addition of this thing into this thing would unnecessarily lead to a lot of activities, like if it is developing a lot of impurities or some degradation products, and then adding to the stability work, which in itself has to be very expensive. One needs to understand the cost of analysis. So with all these things, as upfront answer is again driven by cost. But practically, if you ask me as the operating personnel, I would rather discourage such kind of practices of any reprocessing. Another way, I would like to go one step further. Probably if you spend more time on compliance and really we're taking advantage of all the modern things available with respect to analytics and other things, I think unless accident or exception, such thing may not even happen. And should it happen, probably it should be evaluated, I mean, with the cost, and should it be, then not otherwise.
Yeah, thank you. The other question, Sakshi, for you, can you answer? What stops India for developing its ecosystem? Why we are not seeing reduced dependence on it?
Mr. Khandelwal, I think I tried to incorporate this while I was talking about the policies. I mean, definitely, it is not something which can be done just tomorrow or by next month. the policy will be implemented in a fast manner, and over the years, probably over the next 2 to 3 years only, we will see this reduced dependence from China for the imports of API.
Yeah, Manish, I think this question you can answer. Technology, innovation, and cost management.
Sorry, so you're not clearly audible.
Okay,
Technology.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah. Technology.
Okay. Technology, innovation, and cost management. How they can be, go hand in hand.
So they go hand in hand completely. So technology, we have talked, and in many of my answers, I have already mentioned, getting a new technology for improving the quality of the product. When I have a better quality of the product, that means, I generate less rejects as possible. So that helps me in improving quality as well. And if I'm making less rejects, so less rejects is equivalent to more profit. So very simple. It goes hand in hand. That is one side of it. And when we talk about technology in terms of we talked about Internet of Things and pharma internet and so on as well. So perhaps if we rely more on the technology, we automate more bandwidth, which can be utilized for the core activities, which will be innovation of the products and so on. So perhaps that's what I think on this question.
Tharu, I will give this question to you. Garment washing for pharma. So I think Lindstrom is already of garment processing. Can you comment on this?
Sorry, there was some audio on the line. Could you please repeat the question?
Okay, the question is garment washing for pharma.
Okay. So yes, it's like said, the quality is very crucial in pharma segment. So we have paid a lot of attention to develop our washing processes so that they are compatible with GMP guidelines and all the requirements concerning. So we have important role in ensuring that our workwear doesn't create any contamination or doesn't bring any risk of contamination. So it is very important to ensure, and we have, like said, paid a lot of attention and made many investments for ensuring that we are washing the garments in proper way to ensure the high quality and the needed level of hygiene. And please, Mr. Manas, if you would like to add and comment something.
Yeah, besides workwear, we are also developing solutions for clean room as well as regular pharma, like goggle washing. We have now mops, wipes, and many other things which can be used inside clean room or in pharma space. So we are developing solutions continuously to support pharma industry.
Yeah, thank you, Manas. I will take one last question. The question is for Bhavesh. Self-development and growth opportunities during pandemic.
Yeah, it is important for everyone, including all of us, to learn every day. And this has given a great opportunity. The lockdown has given a tremendous opportunity for all of us, and especially the technical people, to learn from their home. And I received a lot of data that people have done a lot of seminars, a lot of self-improvement programs during the lockdown period. And I'm sure that this will definitely help them to improve their competency and skills, and they can contribute to the organization in optimum level. So learning and growing, it's a two part of the coin. and I believe that the Indian the human resources have taken a tremendous benefits of the lockdown, and they have upgraded their skills and competency.
Yeah, thank you, Bhavesh. And we have received several other questions, and I think the answers has been covered during the presentation or during the answering of the questions which we have discussed during the webinar. I would like to thank you all the panelists, Ms. Taru Joginan, Mr. Shyam Kante, Mr. Manish Bhatkar, Mr. Bhavesh Upadhyay, Ms. Sakshi Goyal. We are grateful that you could spare the time and join today's discussion and enlighten all the participants with stimulating thought, sharing your vast experience of pharma industry and answering the questions of participants. I thank you all the participants for attending the webinar. With this, we are closing this webinar. Have a safe weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.